What's poppin', y'all? What's poppin', y'all? What's poppin', y'all? Y'all wonder why I'm doing this early in the morning? Well, I'm about to tell y'all. Soon as the thing stops. But oh, I ain't even got my microphone plugged in, y'all. I'm so sorry. Mic check, mic check. There we go. But yeah, so yeah, what I'm finna do is cook me a box of jambalaya and watch What If episode, what am I on? Episode 5, 6, and 7, I think. So I'm about to go make sure I got everything set up and shit right quick. Hold on. I got the bong in here. Dun, 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 dun. It's so cold in there. Dun, 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 dun. Had to get the stuff out, but I'm gonna go put my controller on the charger right quick. I'm gonna put my controller on the charger right quick. All right. Okay. So I'm finna be making the jambalaya without sausage because I don't have any sausage. Oh my god. I need to clean my pot out first because that just looks tragic. I need no. That bitch is on the 8th. Oh, that bitch is on the 8th. But anyways, I don't got the remote over here, yo. That's crazy. I got my phone on the charger. I swear I thought I had another pack of peach rings. Thought I did. Oh well. But yeah, we watching the Christmas live for Cartoon Network. So yeah, so usually I just let my food just cook by itself type shit, cause I already know how to get the shit right. So first what we finna do, fight this motherfucker off right quick. Alright. We gonna turn that bitch on now because that bitch get hot quick and it get hot fast. That means the same thing, I know. Whatever. I want to do this first. I know I'm kind of late to the party. I ain't gonna lie. I had took a leave this morning because I had to woke up with a toothache. Still got a fucking toothache, to be honest. So waking up a little bit late. I just don't know. I love this fucking present, bro. And it's not even because of the person who gave it to me, man. It's just like nobody would ever think about me like this in this way. You know, and a lot of people know I fucks with Marvel. Like it's not oblivious. You know, like a lot of people know I like Marvel, but nobody went out to give me anything like this, man. And to that person, man, I fucking appreciate it. Appreciate it so fucking much, bro. Like I'm gonna put it up soon. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm gonna put it up, or should I keep it in a box and just put it on top of my Funko type shit, like real life. I might just do that because this is dope. This is dope. Like I kind of don't even want to take this bitch out and hang it up, man. I just want to just have them like, yeah, I might have them just like that, man. Fuck that. Whoa. Hey. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm taking forever. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So sorry. So sorry. So sorry. Yep. All right. So. All right. So. All right. So. This is definitely gonna be a quick process because I already got the fucking water on. So I mean the fucking the fire on. So what's really finna happen is this. We finna just get right into it. I'm turning all my lights on and shit, so that's why I'm over here. Oh, I think I don't got no more weed. I just thought about that. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Fuck cake. I only got a little bit left, y'all. Lil Nug. So, about to put it in now. Fuck it. At least I got that pod I ain't opened up yet, so a nigga might just be on pod tonight. And since I'm finna watch What If tonight, we might actually watch either breakdowns or Real Rejects reacting to the episode. One of the two. If I get on tonight, most likely I'm gonna try to get on tonight. I'm gonna try. God damn it. I hate when just a little bitty piece falls out. There we go. I'm about to say, that don't like the piece. I need all that. I need all of that. I've been trying to get stuck to my fucking grinder. Fuck no. Need all of that. Just to make sure I got everything, I'm about to turn this bitch over. Yeah, this is gonna be a one-hit session. Probably not, but it's looking like it's gonna be a one-hit session. Fuck, man. Fuck. I had to do that stupid shit, bro. And it felt good, too. I'm like, man, fuck these bitches, boy. I didn't even want to see none of them. Yeah, I'm talking to myself. Leave me alone. Yeah, I'm talking to myself. Leave me alone. Alright, this is all I'm going to put in for right now. Yeah, that's all I'm going to put in for right now. Because I know that right there is going to be a full bowl, and I could possibly use that for later. Alright. Okay, there we go. Alright. So, that's how we're finna do it. I'm not even finna hit it right now. I usually get a whisk, even though I don't have no water over here. But y'all get the idea. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put some water in there. Hold on. Alright, so Bob Arrow. Okay, yeah. Oh, I got the secret ingredient. Still in the refrigerator. It's not really a secret ingredient. It's just an ingredient. Yeah, I'm good on that. I'm good on that. Maybe not. I'm gonna go get it. Where the total sachet out to? Usually I don't even put it in there, bro. That's how good this should be just by itself, you know. But yeah, here we go. So bam, got the pack. So usually I like to press on the pack, you know, all around, up and down, side to side, left and right. Just simply because like the seasoning they got in here always be clumped up. It always be clumped up. So like literally every time I pull that bitch out, it be clumped up and it's not getting the season fully around the rice. So I usually like I was just saying, I press that bitch all around, turn it upside down, all around, and I shake it up. I still feel clumps though. And I'm not perfect with this shit, man. I'll be having my moments where I still be having clumps enough, but I'll be trying my best to get all the clumps out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So, one more. All right. All right, get that season off that top part because we about to throw that away. All right. All right. All right. See, we still got some clumps in this. Just a bit. I did well though. Usually I'll be ass with this shit. But yeah, we're gonna pour it in the pot. Try to spread that shit evenly before you actually spread it evenly. That way, they go a fucking clump. You see a clump, just break that bitch with your finger. Just break that bitch with your finger, rub your finger off so the seasoning get back in the rice, and just dispense it evenly. Even though you're gonna even that bitch out, you know, when you put the water and all the other stuff in there, it's better just to make sure everything is evenly spread. That's the main reason I crush my bags up. Shake them up, all that shit. All right. So, we're finna do things differently this time. I ain't gonna lie. So. Usually, I'll put the oil in that bitch, then the water. But we're gonna put a little bit of water in that bitch first. Just to soak it. I'm tripping. I'm supposed to pour that bitch in the thing, in the bag, so we can get all the seasoning. But gonna add a little sash. Then we're gonna add the oil. We're gonna try to just run a line through the pot. Boop. Fuck it, 2. Boop. You know, not supposed to be that much. It's supposed to be just a teaspoon. And then we're gonna stir this shit up. Low water and all. We're not done yet. We just want to make sure the oil and the water is dispensed correctly. All right. And I told y'all that I had a secret ingredient, but it's not a secret ingredient. So when I don't have meat to use, I put corn in it. Sometimes I put corn in it when I have meat. But got some corn right here. So I'm finna pop this bitch open. I need some flat. 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 Flat. There we go. Now we gonna dump that whole thing in there. Fuck it. Well, it's not the whole thing because I already used some on my last pot. But we gonna put that whole thing in there. Fuck that. My fucking top came off. Just because I don't have no fucking meat, you know. If it was any other time, I would have put just a little bit in that bitch. But nah, we gonna level it out with the whole thing. So now that we got that in there, I'm gonna pour water in this bag where all the seasoning and stuff is at. Well, I thought I'd waste something for a second. I was like, what the fuck? Alright. Alright. And we're gonna pour it right on top. You can stir it up while you pour it, whatever, but yeah. Alright, that should be all that we need for that. Put that right there. Put that right there. And we can take this to the fucking stove. And while I'm at the stove, I'm gonna stir it up just a little bit more as I go. Because you're supposed to continue to stir this shit. Supposed to. So, what I'm finna do, turn the light a little bit so I can see. Just make sure that everything is being cooked evenly and all. So we're gonna bring this thing to a boil. Gonna bring that thing to a boil while we bring that thing to a boil. I just had to clean out my top because that bitch was not clean. Alrighty. Now that's done, we can go back to the pot. Make sure it's not from the pot. And it's not, because we're gonna boil it yet. It's getting up though. But we're gonna keep on stirring. Keep on stirring. Usually I don't really do this much stirring, but man, I want this bitch to be perfect, so I'm gonna make sure that all the seasoning is going through the rice and the corn. So I'm gonna just keep on stirring. Twist it up a little bit like you got a electric whisk, you know. You ain't gotta stir it the whole time, just switch it up. Like you got an electric whisk. What I mean by electric whisk, I just mean just turn it by the handle instead of actually stirring it. So I usually just do that from the middle, then I go around, do the same thing until I spill something. But then I go back to the regular stir. And I just stir it. Stir, make sure we got everything from the outside and off the corners and stuff. And then we just go back to stirring. Still ain't come to a boil yet. To say I put hot water in this bitch and the fucking fire already been on, I'm surprised it's taking this long to come to a boil. I feel my whisk getting a little heavy though, so that must mean that the rice is actually starting to form. And I think I just seen a boil bubble. Yep, got that boil going. Yep. Alright, once we get that boil going, we're gonna let it get to the top to at least a little bit. And we're gonna turn it down slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. We're gonna turn on low. We're gonna turn on low. And as we bring that thing down low, we're gonna continue stirring that thing. I'm sorry that I can't show y'all this right now, but it's nothing to see really. You know, that's why I'm instructed it as y'all can probably cook it yourself, you know. It's simple, it's fucking box jambalaya, you know. It got the directions on there, but I've been cooking this shit for so long I don't need the directions no more. I swear. Santa? Stupid ass. Alright, we're gonna bring that thing back to a boil just for a quick second. Just for a quick second. I started to get the mild version. That was my first time seeing the mild version. And I was just looking at it like, okay, is it gonna be spicier or what? Or is the regular version supposed to be hot and the mild version supposed to be less spicy? Man, when I picked up that fucking box, man, I read the ingredients. It had less ingredients in the mild than the original. So I was like, man, fuck that, man. Shit. This is perfect. Just the way it is, I swear. Oh, that rice looking good. Oh, that rice looking good. All right, we're gonna bring that thing back down to low. That rice looking good. All right, I'm tired of stirring, so I'm gonna make sure we got all the good seasoning around off the crust and the corners. All right. All right. Put that rice in there. Tap that whisk down. Wash that thing. We'll water that thing down because I don't think I'm gonna be using that no more. And we're gonna put the top on the pot. You get it because top backwards is pot and pot backwards is top. Oh, woo! Stupid. Oh man. Okay. I'm trying to make sure it's on there evenly, like that. There we go. All right. We're gonna let that sit. I'm gonna put my cold drink in the freezer. Take a sip of this watermelon Arizona out the jug. Okay. Hold up. Wait a minute. I forgot I had this shit. Yep, that's definitely heat. Yep, I forgot about that. Had to put that in there. Oh, wait. So yeah, I forgot I had bacon bits. So I just put that in there. Get the get. Let me throw this in the trash. I still got this fucking can right here in this water, and this Tony Sachet, and this vegetable oil, and this box. I need to throw all this shit away. Well, put this shit up. I'm about to put this up first. I got them hollows in my cabinet. Make you take a knee like Kaepernick. hollows in my cabinet. Make you take a knee like Kaepernick. I got the hollows in my cabinet. I'll make you take a knee like Kaepernick. Ugh. All right. I'm looking at this bottle. That's what I'm doing. What time is it, bro? It ain't no but 10 o'clock, man. Let me stop playing. I got shit to do today. At least I'm gonna get some done or whatever, you know. Whoo, nigga crazy. Nigga was really about to glug 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 glug. I can't do it. I can't do it. But yeah, man, I started to watch fucking new Rockstar. Oh, that's what I said I was gonna do today. This morning or whatever. I said I was gonna watch. What I said I was gonna watch? Oh, I said I was gonna watch fucking Screen Crush videos. And I probably should. Type shit, cause they only got. I watched 4 episodes. Bam, ba boom. All right, so. Yeah, let me watch that. Yeah, let me watch that. At least until the food is done. The Total Wine and More. I love Total Wine and More. I ain't gonna lie. They treat that bitch like it's like a motherfucker gonna steal something out there, bitch. But I like Total Wine and More.
Get in on the action, you can bid on some stuff, or you can get on giveaways. We've got lots of giveaways. Follow WWE and then you're automatically in the giveaway. So we have lots of people getting on giveaways. We actually did a ton of giveaways yesterday. It was very generous with his time, very generous with all of his stuff he was signing and personalizing. Funny enough, I don't know if you caught any of it.
Yeah, I saw I came in near the end and he drawn on his face.
He kept going. He was in a whole zone. But he was also, do you remember Yerpole the Clown?
Is that from the This Is Your Life?
Yes. Whenever they needed a clown, they always had Yerpole.
Okay.
So,
whatever the fuck to talk about. Let's go to Screen Crush. Yeah, okay, so they're on episode 7 right now, and I only watched the first 4. Would it be weird if I wait until the 8th episode come out? Because I think they only got like 9 episodes or 10 episodes, I don't know. Because the way that everybody's talking, episode 7 is definitely a filler. Yeah. We watching them bitches. I don't care. Fuck y'all. We watching. Just let y'all know now.
What If Season 2 kicks off with a Nebula film noir episode that is, frankly, unlike anything else we've ever seen in the MCU. And I am so excited to show you all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in the Season 2 premiere of What If. Welcome back to Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and I love how this episode has given us a story and a genre that we have never seen in the MCU before, a film noir. Now, film noir is a genre that was popular in the very early 20th century, and it's one of cinema's earliest examples of an anti-hero protagonist. Film noir is characterized by dark shadows, conspiracies, detective stories, and a hero who is willing to break the law to enforce the law. Now, Nebula, voiced by Karen Gillan in the series, is a perfect choice to fill the role in the MCU. She started off as a villain and very slowly opened herself up to becoming a hero. But Nebula has always been very hard-boiled, and she's always followed a moral code. First, it was the code of Thanos, and then it was the code of the Guardians. So you'll notice that right from the first shot, that this episode is heavily influenced by Ridley Scott's film Blade Runner. Now, that was a groundbreaking 1982 movie that featured a dying Earth Earth, where Harrison Ford wore a very similar trench coat to the one Nebula wears, and he hunted down rogue robots called replicants. So the dystopian Los Angeles in that movie is always dark, it's always raining, and it's littered with bright neon signs, flying cars, and sleazy markets and bars. Just like Xandar in this episode.
This is Xandar. All we got are problems.
Now, of course, this is not the Xandar we know from the Guardians of the Galaxy. Xandar always had sunny, perfect weather, and it was the home of the good guys. Now, the protectors of Xandar are the Nova Corps, and the 3 lights on their chest are a symbol of their trinary star system. This is actually part of the reason that it's always sunny on Xandar. But it also means that the light is an important part of Xandarian culture. Their military is called the Nova Corps, like the supernova of a sun. Their ships look like stars, and they create shields of lights to combat Ronin's ship at the end of Guardians. And this episode perfectly uses this theme of light, which I'll explain as we go along. You know, I've always been a fan of what if and multiverse stories. Like, I love alternate history shows like For All Mankind, or even the very first multiverse movie, It's a Wonderful Life.
I've never seen it.
My God, you haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life? It's an amazing movie. It's like a seminal Frank Capra film. You have to see that.
All right, I'll watch it on streaming. Would you look at that? It's not on any of the streaming services that I subscribe to. Makes me so mad. I mean, I subscribe to all these streaming services, and there's nothing on that I ever want to watch.
Yes, they do. You just have to use NordVPN. They're our partner for this video. Like, if you want to watch almost any movie, like one of my favorite Hollywood movies, Lord of the Rings, it's not on USA Network.
I had to take 2 shots because that first shot felt like
you can use NordVPN
a half a shot.
to change your IP address to that country, and boom, now months for free. And if it's not for you, you can take advantage of their 30-day money-back guarantee. Now, back to the Easter eggs. And then we go to the new and improved opening credits, and man, this is just packed to the brim with Easter eggs. We see this slow zoom in with some of Marvel's biggest characters: Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, and Captain America. And then we get this awesome mirror crack showing all these different realities. You can see Peggy, Jotunheim Loki, Heimdall, Gamora, Goliath, Zombie Wanda, Thor, Doctor Strange, Ultron, Spider-Man, and Tony Stark. Specifically, the scene from Iron Man 2 where he's in the donut and a cap shield and a Hydra symbol. But then it cracks again, and we get a whole new host of characters. There's Topaz, Nick Fury, Shuri, Ant-Man, Ying Li, Nebula, Baby Gamora, young Peter Quill, Black Widow, and a new character from this season, Kahori. So this cracking and splitting symbolizes the splitting and cracking of the multiverse, which of course we saw happen at the end of Loki Season 1. And in case you haven't seen Loki Season 2, I'm not going to spoil how that ends for you, but let's just say the multiverse is still a-growing. And then it splits again, and there's a new shot of Iron Man, Obadiah Stane, Tony Stark, and a new version of the Red Guardian. Then we pan through the shards, and we get to see even more. There's Hulk over here. And then
I just thought about it. We haven't seen the zombie episode yet. If they doing the zombie episode. Because I remember they had a concept art showing everybody that's going to appear in that bitch. And I remember they had Shang-Chi, Kamala, and a lot of other people. Like, I want to see that episode. I ain't gonna lie. I want to see that episode.
At the end of Loki Season 1. And in case you haven't seen Loki Season 2, I'm not going to spoil how that ends for you, but let's just say the multiverse is still a-growing. And then it splits again, and there's a new shot of Iron Man, Obadiah Stane, Tony Stark, and a new version of the Red Guardian. Then we pick Hydra symbol, but then it cracks it. Gamora, Goliath, Zombie Wanda, Thor, Doctor Strange, Ultron, Spider-Man, and Tony Stark. Specifically, the scene from Iron Man 2 where he's in the donut and a cap shield and a Hydra symbol. But then it cracks again, and we get a whole new host of characters. There's Topaz, Nick Fury, Shuri, Ant-Man, Ying Li, Nebula, Baby Gamora, young Peter Quill, Black Widow, and a new character from this season, Kahori. So this cracking and splitting symbolizes the splitting and cracking of the multiverse, which of course we saw happen at the end of Loki Season 1. And in case you haven't seen Loki Season 2, I'm not going to spoil how that ends for you, but let's just say the multiverse is still a-growing. And then it splits again, and there's a new shot of Iron Man, Obadiah Stane, Tony Stark, and a new version of the Red Guardian. Then we pan through the shards, and we get to see even more. There's Hulk over here, and then Black Panther and Natasha. Now, I'm not sure exactly who this is, but I'm thinking it's an AU version of Captain America or Bucky. And then there's the Grandmaster, Odin, Bucky, and Captain Marvel. And then we fly through all these pieces to see our guide, the Watcher.
Man, that is a lot of characters.
I know, man. Isn't it great? I'm so excited for this season. And by the way, before we really get rolling here, I just want to say thank you guys for watching. We're so excited to cover this show. It's going to be hard to cover it during the holidays, but we are making it happen for you. And if you want to support our channel and you like what we do here, please visit our merch store, where we design the merch ourselves. We have lots of cool shirts for you to check out. For instance, we have this brand new shirt to mourn the passing of the DCEU, showing a tombstone reading the DCEU's start and end dates, along with various items that maybe characters could have laid down in honor of this fallen franchise. And of course, we've got the Grogu and Den, where he goes, I go shirts. We have Starbucks variant hoodie with our own variant logo, the Fraser B shirt, the original trilogy, The High Ground. Our merch store is loaded with nerdy merch that we have designed for you. Shopping our merch store is a great way for you to support our channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let's get back to this breakdown. And finally, the intro ends with the Marvel Studios logo made out of cracked glass, symbolizing the multiversal prism the Watcher watched from in Season 1. Except now, we are all watching along with the Watcher. So, film noirs often begin with a murder, a dead body belonging to the hero's friend. In this case, it's Yondu. Now, this episode leads us to believe that Yondu discovered Nova Prime's secret, and that's why he was killed. But I actually don't think that's the case at all. I think Yondu was murdered. The Nova Corps cops wrote that data onto his arrow just to lead Nebula down this certain path. Because if Yondu and Nebula were friends, then she would take a personal interest in seeing this case through. Also, I'm not sure if this means that Yondu and Nebula were friends like in actual Marvel canon. The only time we ever see them really interact is in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, whenever Nebula cuts a deal with the Ravagers when she escapes from the Guardian ship. Yeah. And then Garth Saul comes to collect the body, and he is voiced by the same actor who played him in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Piece of physics.
You didn't say that right, man.
I know, because I'm just a little dog.
Yeah, well, you know what? In fact, Michael Rooker, Jude Law, Taika Waititi, and Seth Green have all returned to voice the same characters they played in the movies, with Nova Prime and Groot being recast for TV. And then we get to Nebula's new origin story.
Wait,
so
but that sounds just like her. That sounds just like her. I thought that was her.
Have all returned to voice the same characters they played in the movies, with Nova Prime and Groot being recast for TV. And then we get to Nebula's new origin
that's crazy.
Story. So in this reality, Ronan betrayed Thanos before he acquired the Power Stone. In this flashback, we can actually see him looking down on Thanos' helmet. And after killing the Mad Titan, he apparently also killed Gamora, which left Nebula all alone.
Oh, killed Gamora. I thought he
Nebula
took Gamora.
In the darkness of space until the light of the Nova Corps rescues her. It's almost like a heavenly light that shines on her, setting up this episode's theme of light versus darkness. Now, she was saved by Nova Prime, kind of her new parental figure. Now, I don't remember if the movies ever say this explicitly, but I've always thought that Thanos saved Nebula like he did for Gamora.
Yeah!
Nebula is used to having adoptive parents who rescue her, but she's also used to these new parents being evil, setting her up to suspect Nova Prime later in the episode.
Whatever.
And the creed that the Nova Corps swear is also filled with talk of following the light and fighting the darkness.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
That's just different. Like, that is so fucking different. Like, who the fuck would think of that shit, bro? Like, real life, who the fuck would think of that shit? Nobody's thinking that way. You're thinking that way, bitch. You're low-key psychotic. I'm sorry.
Now, just like in Guardians, Ronan has a major grudge. A swear is also filled with talk of following the light and fighting the darkness. Now, just like in Guardians, Ronan has a major grudge against Xandar. We can presume that the Kree still signed the peace treaty that we heard about at the beginning of Guardians 1, and that Ronan was still a rogue element, wanting to kill as many Xandarians as possible. He brings his ship, the Dark Aster, to Xandar. Get it? Dark Aster, dark versus light. So, when the Xandarians cut themselves off from the sun, they are literally bathing their planet in darkness, but they're also slowly cutting themselves off from who they really are, their own moral center. In this darkened world, the Xandarians change. Nova Prime changes, but the planet is still littered with hexagons. Seriously, they are everywhere. They're in the mainframe, even inside of Nebula's skull. So, I love how they transformed this once sunny Xandar into this jaded, dystopian world. Perfect setting for a cybernetic film noir in space.
Forget it, Nebula. It's Xandar.
Exactly. High five. Nebula returns to the crime scene to project her old memories, like we saw Thanos do to find information in Avengers Endgame. By playing a memory of his whistle, she is able to summon the whistle to her. And the reason it speaks toward her forehead is because the speaker would have been inside of her head, so the arrow would think that it was returning to Yondu.
Yeah. Hey, then how come later on she can just use the arrow herself?
Because, like Kraglin, she learns to use the arrow with her heart. Now, like Nebula, I immediately suspect
cybernetic.
Prime whenever she set Nebula on
she might be a real person. Yeah, she might be a real person.
Typically include conspiracy stories that go all the way to the top. Notice, too, that when Nova Prime goes on a secure channel, the cockpit gets darker, continuing on this episode's theme of the light versus the dark. Nebula goes into a seedy casino for information, another mainstay of detective stories. Like how Daredevil's always going into bars to squeeze goons for information.
Daredevil squeezes what in bars?
Criminals. He beats up criminals to get information.
Oh, I didn't really understand what you said.
Now, in this bar, there's some very easy to recognize figures. There's Meek with his knives for hands, there's Korg, and there's Drax. And it looks like Groot's having a lucky night playing space craps with a giant stack of chips in front of him. Way to go, Groot. But Rocket is nowhere to be found. Now this could be...
Bro, I wish they really had subtitles for his I Am Groot, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
Maybe in the war with Ronan, poor little Rocket was killed.
And then he joined Lila and the others in the Great Beyond.
Like, real life. Let me talk about that. Let me talk about that. Real life. Real life. Because, bro, I feel like it'll be so much funnier if they actually had, like, subtitles for Groot. But instead of, like, including it in, like, the actual movie, had that bitch included in the subtitles. You feel me? Like, when that nigga's actually talking and says, I'm Groot, but it says what he says very quickly, you know, type shit. Bro, I feel like they should do that with, like, fucking Groot, Goose. Well, not even Goose. I ain't gonna say Goose. I'm gonna definitely say Groot, but definitely Star Wars droids. Like R2 and Chopper. You can kind of tell what Chopper is saying already. But, like, if you actually had some subtitles around that bitch, bro, I'm pretty sure you'll be dying laughing. Because you already know every time you talk, it's some shit talking. You feel me? Even with R2, man, that's a real nigga inside that droid, bro. I ain't gonna lie, bro. So, I feel like he talking shit. But you never know exactly what they're saying, but you kind of getting the idea of it. And that's cool. I ain't gonna lie, that's cool because you still chuckle, you still laugh. You be like, you can just imagine what he said in that moment, type shit, instead of actually knowing what he's saying, type shit. You feel me? So, real life, I feel like that they should start including what group type characters and androids say in the subtitles. So, like, when they actually, like, watch the movie on a streaming service or on DVD or some shit, you can see what they're saying. Does that make sense? Like, am I the only one thinking like that way or what? Because I really feel like that'll make the movie funnier or their character funnier if you actually understand what they're saying instead of trying to interpret what they're saying in their unique language. You feel me? Like, maybe it's just me, but like Marvel, Star Wars, Disney, period. Because I know some Pixar movies, they do the same thing, but we ain't gonna talk about them. Y'all need to include. Y'all need to start doing that, real life. I feel like that'll be another way to, I'm gonna say, get people interested in the movies. You know. And actually get them to go and watch them bitches because they know that they're looking forward, towards an actual translation to that character that they first watched. And it was like, oh damn, like, because when you go to watch movies, you never have the closed captions, you never have the subtitles unless you request them bitches specifically. You know, I never been to a subtitle movie, but they got them out here. I never been, but I always watch it with the subtitles when the bitch come out on the streaming service or on DVD. You know, so that would be a marketing deal, a marketing strategy in a way. You know, that's just me. But like, let me say it again before I stop talking about it. They need to start including translations of the characters like Groot or Star Wars androids in the closed caption for the movie. Period. Try it out and just see if it works. Simple. Literally. I swear it's gonna be so simple.
Daredevil's always going into bars to squeeze goons for information. Daredevil squeezes what in bars? Criminals. He beats up criminals to get information.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't really understand what you said.
Now, in this bar, there's some very easy to recognize figures. There's Meek with his knives for hands, there's Korg, and there's Drax. And it looks like Groot's having a lucky night playing space craps with a giant stack of chips in front of him. Way to go, Groot. But Rocket is nowhere to be found. Now, this could be because this takes place before Rocket and Groot ever met, or maybe in the war with Ronan, poor little Rocket was killed.
And then he joined Lila and the others in the Great Beyond.
Yeah. So, the casino is owned by Howard the Duck, who we saw cameo in all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and right here in Avengers Endgame. Still bothers me that I missed that in our original Endgame breakdown video. And Howard also... Now, this could be because this takes place before Rocket and Groot ever met, or maybe in the war with Ronan, poor little Rocket was killed.
And then he joined Lila and the others in the Great Beyond.
Yeah. So, the casino is owned by Howard the Duck, who we saw cameo in all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and right here in Avengers Endgame. Still bothers me that I missed that in our original Endgame breakdown video. And
wow, really? I even saw that.
The very first live-action Marvel feature film in the 1980s.
This is obviously no place for an intelligence-sensitive duck.
So Howard the Duck was created by the great Steve Gerber in the 1970s, and his comics were amazing. Howard just kind of stomped around in the Marvel Universe, sticking out like a sore thumb, and became such a cult figure that there was actually a campaign to make him president back in 1976. I would actually love to see a loyal adaptation of his stories in Phase 6 in the MCU. Now we see him playing cards, the same kind of cards that he used in the Gerber in the 1960s. Live-action Marvel feature the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and right here in Avengers Endgame. Still bothers me that I missed that in our original Endgame breakdown video. And Howard also has the honor of starring in the very first live-action Marvel feature film in the 1980s.
This is obviously no place for an intelligence-sensitive duck.
So Howard the Duck was created by the great Steve Gerber in the 1970s, and his comics were amazing. Howard just kind of stomped around in the Marvel Universe, sticking out like a sore thumb, and became such a cult figure that there was actually a campaign to make him president back in 1976. I would actually love to see a loyal adaptation of his stories in Phase 6 in the MCU. Now we see him playing cards, the same kind of cards that he used in the cameo game in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, where we saw him play with several other minor characters from the Guardians films and holiday special. And this is kind of appropriate because this bar is loaded with different cameos. Now they discover the data on the air is actually this municipal schematics, and that's actually a big clue that this was a conspiracy all along. Nebula searched the city's database, and there was no record of any of this information.
Sorry, officer. There are no records of these schematics in any archive on Xandar.
When, like, most of that should have been common information that would be public knowledge.
Yeah.
Quite the hodgepodge, actually. Sanitation department, metadata, unpaid parking tickets, rush hour statistics, source code for the shield generator.
This means that Nova Prime would have deleted this information, or at least somebody else at the top would have wiped it from the mainframe server memory.
Yeah.
By the way, Cord is back to being funny again.
Not everyone who goes in comes out.
Which means that many of the people who enter these premises end up dead.
Like, I loved him in Thor Ragnarok, and I thought he was, like, low-key annoying in Thor Love and Thunder, but when this guy is not in the spotlight, he is a delight.
There was a second there where I was thinking, what am I gonna sing at her funeral?
Nebula needs an expert code breaker, so she breaks out Jan Rog. Now, Jan Rog was the Kree villain in Captain Marvel who manipulated Carol Danvers into serving the Supreme Intelligence. In the comics, Jan Rog is actually a longtime antagonist of Marvel, the original Captain Marvel, and is even responsible for the accident that gave him his powers. So, like, they actually ended up mostly adapting that story into Carol's origin in the MCU. Now, at the end of Captain Marvel, Carol apprehended Jan Rog, and then it's not really clear what she did. She put him in a ship, she sent him back to his people. Now, it looks like the Supreme Intelligence must have frowned upon him losing the Empire's greatest weapon, Carol Danvers. But also, now we know that after that movie, Carol returned to Hala and destroyed the Supreme Intelligence. So following those events, the Kree Empire fell apart. And that would explain why Jan Rog became a criminal and why he's no longer serving in the Kree military during the events of the Marvels. And by the way, the Xandarian prison that she visits is not the Kiln. That's the prison the Guardians escaped from in Guardians 1. But it was still built by the Nova Corps and has very similar architecture and design. So to get him out, she even starts a prison riot, just like the Guardians did in their jailbreak. Jan Rog leads her to the Nova Corps' underwater mainframe, and these hatches were a lot like the underwater vault doors we saw in Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. And when he's hacking in, he says,
Come on, baby. Talk to me.
which is kind of how Tony Stark sweet-talked a Tractor back in Avengers Age of Ultron.
Hello, dear. Tell me everything.
The mainframe is a giant ore, fitting because this episode is kind of an alternate history of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and the MacGuffin in that movie...
I'm so glad you're my personal
That's so
shopper.
weird. That is so weird. I thought my shit was broke for a second. I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Day and night, right?
I actually only work the day shift.
Well, then, who am I talking to at 3 a.m.?
I think you're confusing me with your Discover card again?
I am?
Yeah, that's their 24/7 customer service. They also protect you from fraud on unauthorized purchases.
Oh, really?
24/7 customer service.
What do you protect me from?
Mostly yourself?
And $0 fraud liability.
Oh.
Was an orb. So the main frame
Oh
of
yeah.
this
Wait.
exists when it
Nigga had the definition of MacGuffin.
movie.
An object, event, or character in a film or story that serves to set and keep the plot in motion despite usually lacking. Lacking what? Wait. Lacking intrinsic importance. Crazy. He tore for that. That's probably the real definition too. I don't know if it is or not.
Was an orb. So the mainframe is so sophisticated that it just exists on its own, and nobody can actually interact with it except for Nebula because she is
Omega-class cybernetic organism.
Now that term, Omega-class cyborg, is really interesting.
That's interesting.
In the comics, Omega is the class of the most powerful mutants, like Apocalypse. So this implies that Nebula's hardware and software could hack into pretty much anything. In fact, the way the tendrils come out of her skull looked a lot like how her new arm was able to drive the high evolutionary ship in Guardians 3. I also thought it was just a bit out of character for Nebula to just turn her back on Jan-Rog, so I was relieved when it was actually all part of her plan. Nebula wins in this episode by counting on her opponents underestimating her. And notice how after Jan-Rog turns on her, she is completely plunged into darkness. And then Nova Prime reveals that she was the real villain all along.
What? I knew it.
Nova Prime wants to surrender to Ronan, and Nebula left up to her, then why didn't you just ask Nebula to open up the shield?
Because Ronan killed her sister, and there was no way that Nebula would ever agree to surrendering to him.
Oh, okay, I see.
So after the bad Nova Corps cops beat her up, they say,
End of watch.
which might be something the Nova Corps always say when they die. I mean, frankly, they die so much in the comic books that it would make sense that they would have their very own little expression for it.
It's kind of sad.
But this is also similar to something that is recited at funerals for the Night's Watch in Game of Thrones.
My watch is ended.
Nebula does escape, though, and she slips into the streets, where people are actually protesting the Nova Corps, which is weird. Like, they want the doors to open back up and let in the sun, which is exactly what the Nova Corps is secretly trying to do. It doesn't make a lot of sense on closer inspection, but it does show how this society was on the verge of falling apart. Now, back in Howard's bar, a guy made of wood, a guy with scissor hands, and a guy made of rocks are playing paper, rock, scissors.
No pun intended.
You clearly intended that pun.
This is also paying off one of my favorite jokes from Thor Ragnarok.
Made of rocks, as you can see, but don't let that intimidate you. You don't need to be afraid unless you're made of scissors.
Also notice that, in his role as a card dealer, Groot is now wearing a bow tie and vest. Nebula affixing Yondu's fin to her head. And they do the typical Marvel badass team pose, and I love how Korg undermines this moment perfectly.
Right, so we all look cool.
And then he has another banger right after.
Are we allowed to do this? Seems a bit morally grey with the guns and all.
So Howard the Duck is wearing a Rambo bandana, which frankly reminded me a lot of Gizmo in the movie Gremlins 2. Welcome back, Korg. Now meanwhile, Ronan is engaged in his favorite pastime, posing majestically on a starship. Whenever Jan-Rog goes to open the shields, notice that he's actually back to wearing his Kree battle armor that he wore in Captain Marvel. Really nice of the Nova Corps to outfit him with that as a reward for helping them out. So when these new Guardians infiltrate the same Nova Corps headquarters that, by the way, we saw in Guardians 1, Groot pulls the same angry I am Groot maneuver that we saw when they entered Ronan's ship in the first movie. And later, Korg pounds these guys into the floor like Hawk did to Loki in the Avengers. And then Nebula reveals that she was actually in control all along.
What?
As she also gets revenge on Ronan for killing her sister. Now, as
That was
Nova
it, y'all know why.
she is luckily able to snap this arrow in half, which is a neat detail because it means that Nebula can't just easily kill her in the episode's climax. Later, she tries to escape in a Star Blaster, the same ship from the Nova Corps that fought Ronan in Guardians of the Galaxy. So these are made to look like stars. So it's fitting that in this episode, with its theme of light and darkness, the Nova Prime star falls out of the sky. Then she does the old Hans Gruber fall off of a symbol of the Nova Corps, symbolizing her fall from power and the Nova Corps' fall from grace, and how they betrayed their own ideals. And by the way, the episode ends with Howard the Duck actually getting to quack. So this episode is bookended with narration from the Watcher, once again voiced by Jeffrey Wright. Now, in the last season, the Watcher played like an increasingly important role in the show. At first, he stayed in the background narrating until the final 2 episodes when he accidentally entered the story. And in this episode, he begins the narration before it is taken over by Nebula.
And in his fall, he took Nebula's sister along with him.
Which is another trope of a film noir. Pulp detective novels were often done in the first person, so the movies usually had the hero narrate the events. Well guys, I am so excited to break down this season of What If for you. I'm actually not going to be hosting every single video. Our own Colton Ogburn, the guy who lives on television, who's trapped there forever, he does not know it. Colton's going to be hosting a lot of episodes too, but we're all going to be working on the behind the scenes. It's going to be so much fun. This episode is so great. I'm sure the rest of the season is going to be fantastic. And just a reminder, everybody, go to review.com/screencrush real quick.
Fuck. To be honest, I ain't gonna lie, I just want to watch the breakdowns with y'all, and then I'm gonna come back tonight and we can watch the actual show. I think that'll be better.
You are human after all.
Actually, old man, my mom says I'm a star.
Hey, welcome back to Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and these are all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in Season 2, Episode 2 of What If. And thanks AG1 for partnering with us on this video. So this episode opens with the familiar voice, Haley Atwell's Peggy Carter, now serving as director of S.H.I.E.L.D. like we saw in the opening scene of the first Ant-Man movie, which took place in 1989, whereas this episode is taking place just a year prior in 1988. So we see a ship crash land on the Grand Central Station Bridge in the exact same spot we saw the Avengers fighting the Chitauri during the Battle of New York. In this alternate universe, a young Peter Quill was abducted by Yondu, just like in the mainline MCU. But in this universe, Yondu does not adopt Peter. Instead, he completes his mission and delivers him to his father, Ego, the living planet, who we met in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Of course I have issues. My freaking father!
Now, if you need a refresher, Ego the Living Planet is, well, a giant planet with a face on it. He's one of the universe's Celestials, like the giant beings that we saw in the Eternals. In the mainline MCU, Ego fathered children all throughout the galaxy, trying to produce a powerful heir to help him conquer the cosmos. In this reality, though, Peter was deceived by his celestial father and turned into the weapon that Ego wanted him to be.
And with his son now at his side, he had all the power he needed.
Now, young Peter has these same glowing eyes that we saw Star-Lord have while under Ego's influence in Guardians 2. And Peter is wearing the same outfit that we can see him wearing here in the opening scene of the first Guardians film. The same clothes he was wearing when he was abducted by Yondu. Now, when Peter meets his father, Ego takes away and destroys Peter's Walkman containing all of his favorite music. This Walkman and its collection of songs is what kept Peter in touch with his humanity in the mainline MCU. Peter's connection to his music helped him remember where he came from.
You shouldn't kill my mom and squish my Walkman.
So, when Ego took Peter's Walkman, he severed Peter's connection to his mother, humanity, and Earth, making it easier for him to manipulate Peter and transform him into a living weapon.
Hey person, when did you learn karate?
I don't know karate.
Oh, then is it secret karate?
Yes.
Description to get started with your first purchase of AG1. Now, back to what I was saying. Now, here we see text that reads, Project Pegasus, S.H.I.E.L.D. Western Division Headquarters. Now, Project Pegasus was a 1980s collaboration between S.H.I.E.L.D., NASA, and the Air Force to study the Tesseract, aka the blue cube harnessing the Infinity Stone, the Space Stone that we saw in the Avengers. At this headquarters, we not only catch up with Peggy Carter, but also Tony Stark's father, Howard, as well.
I thought my kid was a pain in the ass.
When Howard says,
all that We Are the World garbage doesn't really play outside of MTV.
This is in reference to the popular collaborative song We Are the World, which featured a team-up of performers like Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, Tina Turner, Billy Joel, Kenny Rogers, Paul Simon, Willie Nelson, and many, many more, including Dan Aykroyd for some reason. This song won a lot of MTV Music Awards, and this reference to a big team-up of musicians was a great nod to the big team-up of heroes that we're going to be seeing later in this episode. So our first hero up is Hank Pym, aka Original Ant-Man. Here we can see him and a young Hope Van Dyne, who of course later becomes the Wasp. Now this is taking place roughly a year after Janet, as the original Wasp, sacrificed herself to stop a missile in 1987. We even hear Hank make mention of his beef with S.H.I.E.L.D. after what happened with Janet here.
I don't have anyone to leave her.
After Janet, as the original Wasp, sacrificed herself to stop a missile in 1987. We even hear Hank make mention of his beef with S.H.I.E.L.D. after what happened with Janet here.
I don't have anyone to leave her with, thanks to this place.
And speaking of beef, we've known ever since Ant-Man 1 that Hank Pym has had beef with the Starks.
I spent half my life trying to keep this technology out of the hands of the Stark.
I'm sure as hell not gonna hand deliver it to one now.
And we get a glimpse of that seemingly one-sided beef between the two here.
You know, for a genius, Stark, you're pretty slow on the tink.
Next, we meet a young Bill Foster, a.k.a. Goliath, who we first met in Ant-Man and the Wasp, played by Lawrence Fishburne.
I'm not Lawrence Fishburne!
Foster was also a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a former colleague of Hank and Janet. Next up is King T'Chaka, father of T'Challa, a.k.a. the Black Panther. Now, during this time, T'Chaka was serving as both King of Wakanda and as the Black Panther. And he's wearing the same uniform we saw him in flashbacks in the first Black Panther film. When Howard Stark greets King T'Chaka, we hear him mention how his father was a big help in winning the war, referring to World War II. And T'Chaka mentions his father having donated vibranium, the same vibranium that was used to build Captain America's shield.
The most versatile subject.
Man, bro, I wish they would have showed that shit instead of turning it into a game.
We then get this fun nod to the shield being at the bottom of the Arctic.
Lost it in the Arctic, but other than that, things turned out pretty well.
A reference to Steve Rogers' current whereabouts following his sacrifice in the first Avenger. And then came another relic from the war, the Winter Soldier. King T'Chaka mentions that the Winter Soldier was sent by Gorbachev, the leader of the Soviet Union at that time. This is reminding us of who had control of Bucky during his time as a Winter Soldier. And I love getting to see Peggy recognize Bucky and getting to hear them talk about the rumors of his survival.
I've heard the rumors, but even if they're true, the man we knew is long gone, Peg.
And here we get to see Hank wearing his OG Ant-Man suit, the same suit we see Scott Lang wear in the first Ant-Man movie. Next came Wendy Lawson, a character we first met in Captain Marvel. Now, Wendy's real name is Marvell, and she worked on Project Pegasus, specifically trying to achieve light-speed travel. Here we can see Wendy in a green Star Force uniform, just like Captain Marvel's in her first movie.
It's not. It's Kree Star Force.
So I love this line, calling out T'Chaka for pretending his kingdom of Wakanda is a third-world country.
We thank the leader of a technological superpower that masquerades as a third-world country. We appreciate that.
Roasted!
Now this shows us that S.H.I.E.L.D. knew there was more than meets the eye to Wakanda decades ago. So while it was a shock to the world when Wakanda revealed itself at the UN, it was not a shock to those in the know. This would also explain why Wakanda appeared on a map that Nick Fury had at the end of Iron Man 2. The line here about not wanting the cube in that jet to blow up was of course in reference to the Tesseract.
Go back, killer.
If the cube in that jet blows, there won't be a planet left to save.
And then comes Thor. But this was a very different Thor from what I was expecting. Last season of What If gave us a young Thor who was raised as an only child and was very immature. Now, while we can assume that this Thor had a Loki, he still came off very mature for a 1988 Thor. I mean, I understand that Thor would be an adult in 1988 because he's thousands of years old, but even in the first Thor movie, we saw him behave immaturely. This Thor, however, looked, sounded, and acted more like the Thor from Thor: The Dark World.
I know you seek vengeance as much as I do.
Da, 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 da. I want to skip it so bad, but then
Find space at Spring Hill Suites.
You helped me escape Asgard, and who brought it to you? Vengeance.
But I think I know why they made the decision to make him appear more like that Thor. In the Dark World, we see Thor reeling from the death of his mother. Well, this Thor is probably reeling from the death of his mother, and maybe even his brother and father as well.
Dad, they're all dead.
He said that Peter Quill ravaged Jotunheim and Asgard, so it's likely this version of Thor was forced to grow up very quickly and become a darker, more mature version of himself following those tragedies. But you can't have Thor without a little bit of comedy, so we had to have Peter Quill mistake him for the guy from Van Halen.
I heard that you were the dude from Van Halen.
A reference to David Lee Roth, and a reference to the music-loving Peter Quill that still exists deep inside of him. Thor secured the celestial seed from the state of Missouri, which is also where Peter is from.
I'm from Earth, I'm from Missouri.
Yeah, that's on Earth, dipshit.
In Guardians 2, we learned that Ego had planted his seed, which is gross when you say it like that, on planets throughout the universe. We get a call back to Avengers Infinity War when Howard Stark asked if they could just chuck the seedling into a garbage disposal. Exactly what Tony Stark said to Doctor Strange about chucking the Time Stone into a garbage disposal in that movie.
So why don't we just shove this thing down the garbage disposal? Problem solved.
If Thanos needs 06, why don't we just stick this one down the garbage disposal?
Peter is now being held in the same glass cage as Loki held in the first Avengers movie, meaning that this cage maybe wasn't specifically built for the Hulk after all, despite what Loki and Fury implied in the Avengers.
It's an impressive cage. Not built, I think, for me.
Built for something a lot stronger than you.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, Ego attempted to sever Peter's connection to his humanity by taking away his music. And here, it was Hope sharing with Peter her Walkman that brings Peter back to his humanity. I also thought it was sweet to see these two kids who both lost their mothers bonding over the music and the Walkmans that they both left behind.
Is that her Walkman? It's just, you're holding onto it pretty tight.
We get this funny line from Howard here about absentee fathers.
Yeah, great. Blame the absentee father. I get that enough from my own sons.
A reference to the patchy relationship that Tony and Howard had, and that we actually got a glimpse at in Civil War. Now, when all these tanks lined up in the desert to meet the big bad alien visitor, I got real Man of Steel vibes, both for when the military met Superman and then General Zod and his comrades. It also reminded me of previous What If episodes, like when Loki came down to Earth with an Asgardian army to avenge the death of Thor, and when Infinity Ultron showed up at the end of What If Thor was an only child episode. Now, during the hero's battle with Ego, we hear Thor say,
"Not so long as there is breath in my body."
A callback to this scene from Avengers Age of Ultron.
And as long as there is life in my breast, I am running out of things to say.
I loved seeing Ego's minions attack Goliath like a swarm of ants. Now, there's some irony there that I appreciated, since Foster and Pym worked together on their growing and shrinking technologies. When Howard is talking down Bucky from shooting Peter while at his mother's tombstone, we hear Bucky say,
"There is no me."
A reminder that Bucky is under severe mind control during this time. When Peter joins the heroes and goes to face his father, we get a very similar altercation to the one the father and son have in Guardians 2. We hear Ego say, "That's the mortal in you."
That's the mortal in you, Peter.
That's the mortal in you, Peter. In time, though, you'll come to understand.
And Peter has a very similar reaction to the revelation that Ego killed his mother.
It broke my heart to put that tumor in her head. What?
You killed my mother?
Bro.
After Ego is defeated, we see the team celebrating back at Hank's house, where Thor tries an earthly beer for the first time and exclaims,
"Another!"
just like in the first Thor movie when he tried coffee for the first time.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
God, I love that scene. And then we get a cameo from everyone's favorite Flurkin, Goose. And by the way, guys, we've got an awesome Goose-inspired shirt up on our merch store right now. Be sure to check that out. We've got Doug as Goose, we've got this Flurkin Hannibal Lecter shirt, and my personal favorite, this Higher, Further, Faster shirt that actually has the cast of the entire Spring Crush team just getting shown out together. Anyways, in Captain Marvel, Goose originally belonged to Marvel, but she was then given to Carol Danvers. Well, now, in this universe, it's Peter and Hope that Goose is being pawned off on. Peter says,
But I'm more a dog guy.
a reference to his future canine companion, Cosmo the Space Dog.
You're a bad dog.
Take that back. Come on, that's not cool.
And the episode ends with a tease that perhaps this season's big bad will be Ego the Living Planet. Thor explains that the Celestial isn't truly dead until his planet is destroyed. And that is when we get that iconic Avengers theme as our heroes band together to go finish the job. Maybe we'll catch back up with them in a later episode, or perhaps we'll even see Ego the Living Planet become a real multiversal threat. Well, guys, that's all the Easter eggs we found.
No.
Big shout out to the writer of this video,
Please.
Colton Ogburn.
No.
Colton's actually going to be hosting a lot of these What If videos over the next few days, but we're...
Howard's been overtaken by terrorists.
Terrorists on Christmas? What is this, Con Air? No, wait, Under Siege? No, that's not it. Wait, I know this one.
Welcome to Screen Crush. I'm Colton Ogburn, and these are all
Why?
the Easter eggs, references,
Why?
and little things you might have missed.
Why?
What If Season 2,
Why?
Episode 3. And
Why? No. They fucked me up. No. You're going to 4. I'm sorry. I don't like new people.
I made a choice.
I did the same thing with New Rockstars with MT.
Mr. Metal Mojo?
Now I barely watch heavy spoilers because they got MT on there.
Oh, I see that sticking.
What If Season 2, Episode 4 was one of my all-time favorite episodes
There we go.
ever of Marvel TV. It brilliantly fits into the canon, revisits the best MCU movie, and is filled with Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed. Welcome back to Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy. I loved this episode. It brilliantly recreated the energy of a Mad Max car chase, it's a brilliant companion piece to Thor Ragnarok, and it showcases the essence of Tony Stark's character better than any MCU film since Iron Man 1. It wasn't perfect, I have some notes, but I cannot wait to break this thing down for you.
Yeah, you're crazy kids.
So, the episode begins with a flashback to the finale of Season 1, when the Watcher assembled the Guardians of the Multiverse to fight Infinity Ultron. Now, at the time, that lineup was composed of heroes and villains that were featured in that season, except for this version of Gamora. 2 years ago, we reported that this was from an episode of the show that they didn't have time to complete, so they just pushed the episode to Season 2. And now we finally get to see it, and man, was it worth the wait. The Watcher says,
Gamora's path to becoming the hero of her story began in
in someone else's.
Which is a really neat way to transition from Gamora being the protagonist we knew from the finale to Tony Stark being the protagonist of this episode. Then we go to the intro of the show, which by the way we covered in our episode 1 breakdown. Watch that if you have time. We had a lot of fun making it. Then we cut to Tony Stark in the Avengers.
Guys, good. Let's thank for the food. Buy his. We can't think of our daily bread, man.
Recreation of the final moments of him in space. Now the Watcher calls this
the ultimate hero's play,
which is a play on what Steve Rogers said about Tony earlier that same day.
You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play. To lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you.
Now, this is all very, very cool because back in 2012, there was a rumor that Tony Stark was going to end up in space at the end of that film. And the rumor said that he would go off to join the Guardians of the Galaxy like he did in the comics. So this may have actually been something that Marvel was discussing behind the scenes, and now we have final moments of him in space. Now the Watcher calls this
the ultimate hero's play,
which is a play on what Steve Rogers said about Tony earlier that same day.
You're not the guy to make the sacrifice
Chopsticks.
To lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you.
Now this is all very, very cool because back in 2012, there was a rumor that Tony Stark was going to end up in space at the end of that film. And the rumor said that he would go off to join the Guardians of the Galaxy like he did in the comics. So this may have actually been something that Marvel was discussing behind the scenes, and now we actually get to see it play out.
Finally.
So the wormhole actually closes with Tony Stark still inside of it, which recreates this event from Thor Ragnarok. When Thor was knocked around in the Bifrost, which is a particular kind of wormhole by the way, he ended up on Sakaar. So the fact that the Tesseract and the Bifrost both sent people to Sakaar really feeds into the theory that Odin used the Tesseract's energy before he hid the Tesseract away on Earth.
The Tesseract is the jewel of Odin's treasure room.
So then Tony lands in the Palace of the Grandmaster, voiced once again by the great Jeff Goldblum.
Hey, look, who's this handsome dog?
Now remember when Thor landed on Sakaar and his powers were dampened, and the Grandmaster called him
Sparkles?
And here he tries to give Tony his own demeaning nickname.
Mr. Metal Mojo Man.
The one he settled on, Mojo, is actually an Easter egg to the X-Men. Now one of the best X-Men villains, one that we really should be seeing in the MCU, is this extra-dimensional TV mogul named Mojo who feeds off people who were like watching his TV programs. He like craves high ratings. And like the Grandmaster, Mojo entertains people by making different superheroes fight each other.
Hey person, what are your New Year's resolutions?
I don't have any.
None?
Nope. I used to have a real problem with stress eating, like I was off. That is tryfum.com and use the code ScreenCrush to get an additional 10% off your order today. Now, back to what I was saying. Rachel House also returns as the Grandmaster's loyal servant Topaz with her milking stick from Ragnarok. Tony is surprised to find out that the Battle of Earth was days ago because, like the Grandmaster says in Ragnarok,
Time works real different around these parts. On any other world, I'd be like millions of years old.
And of course, he tells Tony something very similar here.
You know, time works differently here.
Tony immediately sees Pepper on the news, which reminds him of his primary motivation to return home. Now, you might be reminded of him at the beginning of Avengers Endgame when his only thought after the snap was to get home to the woman he loved.
When I drifted off and be like every day lately, I dream about you.
Tony tells Grandmaster that he's put his party days behind him, which is mostly true. In the comics, Tony is a full-blown alcoholic, which was explored in the brilliant story Demon in a Bottle. In fact, there's a Demon in a Bottle reference later in this episode when Tony uses this phrase to talk to Valkyrie about her drinking problem.
Feel alive, if only for a moment, so you can forget whatever mistake has you chasing that demon in a bottle.
In the MCU, we have seen Tony really lean into excess, especially in Iron Man 2.
Tony, how do you go to the bathroom in the suit? Just like that.
I did not hear the sound before.
Drink in the MCU
oh my god.
Now, just like in Thor Ragnarok, Sakaar is filled with these incredible designs that are either homages or direct copies of the work of the legendary artist Jack Kirby. Kirby created or co-created most of Marvel's biggest heroes, and I love seeing his wacky cosmic designs brought to life in the movies and TV shows. And we saw a lot of these same characters in Thor Ragnarok, like this guy in the helmet entering the arena.
Nice helmet.
I know you look familiar.
Peaceful fight's pretty.
When they're in the Grandmaster's booth, the same one where he sits with Loki in Thor 3, he says, "It's my birthday." And remember, his orgy yacht had a birthday setting on the console.
It's my birthday!
So what we're seeing here is the Grandmaster's games before he started up the Contest of Champions, when everybody was basically competing in a space NASCAR race.
No, these are chariots.
Alright, I guess it is more like a chariot race, like the ones they held in ancient Rome, as depicted in classic films like Ben-Hur. But man, I love this sequence so much. Like, this is the cosmic MCU meets the racing game Twisted Metal. This makes me really want them to make like a Marvel kart, like Mario Kart, like these machines in different cosmic sets.
Yo, that'd be dope.
Pod even has these two wings on
Got
the side.
fucking Marvel pinball. The fuck?
There's the Gladiator Arena and Ragnarok. We're sure to talk about Thor Ragnarok a lot. Has anybody ever told you that? That's right, Doug. They did also return Mark Mothersbaugh's awesome score for this episode. Now, I should note here that the guy voicing Tony is, of course, not Robert Downey Jr.
You can't afford me.
It is veteran voice actor Mick Wingert, who has voiced Tony Stark in various animated projects over the years and in What If Season 1.
I told you, I don't want to join your super secret boy band.
Now, he may not sound exactly like Robert Downey Jr., but he sure does constantly drop sarcastic comments, just like Tony does.
All right, ready to rock and roll? And I had to say that at least once. Not you, Debbie.
Yeah, I didn't get a lot of his references because I am not a man in my 40s.
Don't worry, Doug. I will explain those references to you as we go along.
And this is why we are the best of friends.
Aw, thanks, buddy, and thank all of you for watching and supporting our channel as we work to bring you these What If breakdowns on every single day as the episode launches. We absolutely could not run this channel without all of you, and if you would like to keep supporting us, you could please check out our merch store at ScreenCrushMerch.com, where we design the shirts ourselves. Every month we drop new designs. Like this month, we have this awesome RIP DCEU t-shirt to commemorate the end of that franchise. We also have our Fraser Beach shirt, the Mando and Grogu as Elliot and E.T., and many, many other designs that we have designed ourselves. Guys, shopping our merch store is the absolute best way for you to directly support our channel. Thank all of you for watching. Now, back to the breakdown. Now, I have watched this chase sequence 3 times, and every single time I keep noticing more little details. Like how this zoom into the cockpit of Valkyrie is so much like so many shots of Fury Road.
Yeah.
And the way they keep the camera low to the ground is an old camera trick that George Miller employed in the first Mad Max movie. Putting the camera closer to the ground creates the illusion of increased speed.
I never watched none of the movies before.
Also, notice these people in the crowd who are dressed like Celestials. Now, I'm not sure if this is because, like, they worship the Celestials, or if they're just more Jack Kirby-inspired designs. So the episode borrowed a lot of camera tricks from George Miller and other artists, like how in the second race we get these constant tiny crash zooms every time Gamora is about to do something small, even like pushing a button. But they also added these incredible creative design elements, like a giant car that's essentially a big engine that sucks up all of the dead cars and obliterates the racers. God, this was so much fun. And even like this little moment where Valkyrie reverses up this tank tread that looks a lot like this vehicle from the Clone Wars. Afterwards, they throw hamsters at her. They used to throw food, but now there's food shortages, and so they think it's just bad optics.
It's considered uncouth.
Although, I think the reason there might be a food shortage is because there are so many hamsters eating all the grain. So, in the movie, the champion is the Hulk, but here it's a giant elephant that Cord calls, and maybe he's called that because he's a big elephant, like Snuffleupagus on Sesame Street.
So much for staying for one drink.
Ooh, you're doing the thing. He's doing the thing.
So then, Tony joins the fray, and remember, this is his Mark 7 armor, the first armor that he had that he could actually summon to himself with his wristband. And when he meets Cord, he calls him Mount Rushmore, because he's got a big rocky face.
I'm made of rocks, as you can see.
And man, guys, this just really cemented how much I miss Tony Stark.
It's a Romanov. You miss me.
Like, the writers of this show must have had a blast writing for this character again. We need a hero with this kind of confidence and swagger, who is constantly calling people, like, old pop culture names.
You're the blue one, Mr. Grinch.
And then Gamora shows up. She is wearing the same battle armor that we saw her wearing in Avengers Endgame in the flashback back in 2014. Now, she wore this just prior to being assigned to join Ronan. And of course, like we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy, that's when she had a change of heart and she then decided to get away from Thanos. Now, when we met her in that Endgame flashback, she was already pretty anti-Thanos. So you might be wondering what happened to her between 2012 and 2014 to make her want to turn against her dad. I mean, after all, the person we see in this show show is pretty much an acolyte of Thanos.
I am the daughter of Thanos, the Mad Titan, the one burdened to bring balance to this universe.
I think the event that made her want to turn against Thanos is when she found the map to Vormir. We saw in a flashback conversation in Endgame that she wanted to keep that map from her father. Maybe the prospect of actually dusting half the universe finally hit home for her, and she didn't want everyone else in known existence to suffer the same kind of pain that she did when she was a little girl. Anyways, notice that Tony is wearing a black sweater in this show instead of the Black Sabbath t-shirt that he was wearing in the Avengers. I think this is because Sharon Osbourne is a ruthless business manager who probably wanted too much money to use the logo.
Mom just wants to get paid. What can you do?
Take me my money.
So because it's been a few days since the Battle of New York,
What's the shirt say? I ain't see
kind
it.
of pain that she did when she was a little girl. Anyways, notice that Tony is wearing a black sweater
Oh, yeah.
instead of the Black Sabbath t-shirt that he was wearing in the Avengers. I think this is because Sharon Osbourne is a ruthless business manager who probably wanted too much money to use the logo.
Mom just wants to get paid. What can you do?
Take me my money.
So because it's been a few days since the Battle of New York, Gamora is on Sakaar to kill Tony Stark. Instead, she gets chipped, and the two of them are thrown into Hulk's love suite that we saw in Ragnarok.
The red, the white, just pick a color.
Then he name drops.
Not hanging around to play Dr. Moreau's Hunger Games, that's for sure.
So Dr. Moreau is from the Marlon Brando movie where he plays a mad scientist who makes freaks and clones, and the Hunger Games actually is...
Hey, wait, I got that one. I understood that reference.
Good, buddy. Now, after he and Korg get away, he asks how the Grandmaster gained power.
Did he gerrymander the districts?
Gerrymandering is actually a process here on Earth in American politics, where politicians redraw congressional districts to favor their own parties. It's supposed to be illegal, but it's more like frowned upon, kind of like brown bagging at a Little League game.
Brandon! Get on the damn bag!
And man, Korg hits it out of the park with his response.
I shouldn't even have voted for him.
Remember, in Thor Ragnarok, Korg was the more politically conscious person on Sakaar.
I tried to start a revolution, but didn't print enough pamphlets, so hardly anyone turned up.
During the next fight, Korg does the same ground pound that Hawk did to Loki in the Avengers. You know what? In the MCU can stop referencing that. We're good. Come up with some new things, please.
You're repeating yourself. You're repeating yourself.
Then Tony shocks Gamora with a similar device to the one Thor used on Loki when he betrayed him in Ragnarok. And then he calls her Xena, a reference to the 90s television series Xena, Warrior Princess. And then Tony gets this heart-to-heart monologue where he tells Gamora that New York was not a game to him. And of course there he means Phil Coulson. And I love that he spends the episode trying to help her change. Tony is able to see things in people, like when he saw the potential superhero in Bruce Banner.
So you're saying that the Hulk saved my life? Saved it from what?
I guess we'll find out.
And with Gamora, he sees himself, someone who is fighting to live up to their father's expectations instead of choosing their own path and following their own heart.
But I'm not my father. You're not your father. I made a choice.
Tony's entire arc in the Marvel Cinematic Universe was always trying to make up for his past sins. Like he says later on, he did things that hurt people, and everything he does now is to make amends.
You really gonna risk everything for a bunch of strangers on an alien junk planet?
Yeah, that's what I do. I'm Iron Man.
I love how this entire episode was grounded in that basic tenet of Tony Stark's character, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later on. Korg says,
One time he used me as a paperweight, and can you imagine how that felt? Just to have to sit on paper, which is my nemesis.
Now this is a follow-up on his rock, paper, scissors joke from Ragnarok.
You don't need to be afraid unless you're made of scissors.
Which is also referenced in the first episode this season.
But it's uncuttable paper, because it's made of rock.
And they also mentioned somebody living on a farm upstate. And we all know what that means.
Yeah, they probably took him out to the barn and shot him.
Exactly. Why? You know what that means?
Oh, man, I'm not stupid. I know what that means.
Okay, and then we get some rock guitar for the classic Tony Stark building a new Iron Man suit montage. Like his first suit, this montage begins with him rolling out blueprints. He's got the goggles, he's got the blowtorch. Except now he's using a bunch of scrap on an alien world instead of a bunch of scraps in a cave. And look, maybe I'm wrong here, but does the Grandmaster Tower have Khonshu in it? Did an Egyptian bird god at one point travel to this world and compete with the race? I really think that might have happened. A bunch of scraps in a cave! And look, maybe I'm wrong here, but does the Grandmaster Tower have Khonshu in it? Did an Egyptian bird god at one point travel to this world and compete in a chariot race? I really think that might have happened, and I want to see that
Fucking man thing, stupid.
Right? So, when Tony presents his ultimatum to the Grandmaster, he calls him
Ted,
which is, of course, named after the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, and really, that is a totally superficial reference to the gaudy collars the Grandmaster wears. Tony references are always just based on how people look, and rarely does he bother to look beyond the surface.
Manchurian candidate for killing me. There's a truce here. You can drop
Like even when he says,
slap me and call me Spartacus.
like, okay, that's a reference to the movie Spartacus because I guess Ben-Hur was just a little bit too on the nose. And while I'm complaining, I thought the fake slow-mo walk here was just a bit too much.
Thank you for indulging me, guys. I've always wanted to walk very slowly.
This seems like one of those MCU moments where characters, like, they look cool, but then the movie has to, like, make sure that we know they're not trying too hard to look cool. You know, like this.
Stop.
So, just a few fun things I noted during this final race. I loved this continuous final shot of all the racers zooming further out into each cockpit. And then there's this moment when they drive out of the mouth of a statue of a Celestial, which seems like an homage to the Joel Schumacher Batman films, where Gotham City was filled with these giant statues that they would drive the Batmobile into during a chase. Now, during Tony's pep talk to Gamora, he talks about his well-documented daddy issues.
I never got to say goodbye to my father.
Now, in our deeper meaning of Iron Man video, I talked about how Tony's lifelong expectations of living up to his father led to him becoming kind of numb to the world. He blindly followed anyone that told him that that's what his dad would have done.
You finally undid yourself, Tony. You made your father proud.
And here's the thing, Tony and Gamora, like, never share a conversation in any movie. Like, remember this?
Where's Gamora? Yeah, I'll do you one better. Who's Gamora?
I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora?
And they've lived their lives going down very similar paths, so it was awesome to see them interact like this. Like, this is what makes crossovers great. Remember that? Remember when the MCU used to actually just have characters from different franchises cross over with each other? That was a lot of fun.
I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
Tony also says his dad doesn't know how to dispense a wise fatherly figure from To Kill a Mockingbird. And then Tony Stark turns his armored which is... Remember when the MCU used to actually just have characters from different franchises?
What show that came from?
That was a lot of fun.
I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
Tony also says his dad was no Atticus Finch, a reference to the wise fatherly figure from To Kill a Mockingbird. And then Tony Stark turns his armor into a race car, which is so perfect.
Autobots, transform and roll out.
Like we saw in Iron Man 1, that he had an affinity for classic cars, even inspiring the color of his Mark III suit.
Throw a little hot rod red in there.
And of course, he drove a race car in Monaco before he was attacked by Ivan Vanko. The wheels of the car are even arc reactors. And just for a second, I thought the car was going to levitate, improving on the flying car his father, Howard Stark, couldn't get to work in Captain America First Avenger. And then, after the Grandmaster tries to cheat, he gets his melty stick used on himself. You know, quoting Wizard of Oz.
I'm melting!
And of course, the Grandmaster is really into how this feels. Hey, I like it. And then Valkyrie is elected leader of Sakaar, just like she was made leader of New Asgard in the main MCU timeline. And then we get that incredible cliffhanger. Gamora delivers Tony Stark to Thanos, who is still on his floating rock chair that we saw in Avengers post-credit scene and in Guardians 1. But Tony is used as a distraction as Gamora leaps above him with the melty stick and then stabs Thanos in the chest. But... and of course, this is a callback to Thor using Stormbreaker and hitting Thanos in the chest with it instead of hitting him in the head.
You should have gone for the head.
I didn't even think that.
So we're actually left not knowing if Thanos lives or dies, which is one of the hallmarks of Marvel What If stories in the comics. They always end on these really fun, nebulous cliffhangers. Except, because we saw Tony and Gamora melting the Infinity Gauntlet last season, like, we know they survived.
How do we put a suit of armor around the world? Around the galaxy?
Well, guys, that's our breakdown of Episode 4. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time,
damn shame.
welcome to the channel. Nice to see you. Please subscribe, smash that.
Almost this whole part.
Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Just ridiculous. I don't give a damn. So if I don't.
Uf, otra factura más. Necesitamos ahorrar. Algo hay que contar.
Se te ocurre contar el fútbol.
Tengo un mejor plan para ahorrar. Nos cambiamos a Verizon.
Llévate 4 líneas por solo $25 cada una, garantizado por 3 años. Solo en Verizon.
Was that the last episode that I watched? Yup. Yup. So we got 3 episodes to watch. Okay, episode 5, which is the Captain Carter episode. They fighting the Hydra Stopper. Got the Cohorty episode. I know I pronounced it Cohori yesterday, but I forgot that it got an accent to it and the T is silent. So we got the Cohorty episode. And we got the Hella episode. And that's gonna be fucking dope. I can't wait to watch that. I can't wait to fucking watch that. I really want to watch that now, but we ain't gonna do it right now. I really need to know how many episodes they got. So I'm gonna look up at how many episodes they got. Then I'm gonna come back. But for now, I'ma let y'all go till later on. Let me take a sip with y'all till I be on. Dum, dum, dum. Oh, Jesus. And watch the 3rd episode one.
Terrorists on Christmas? What is this, hot air? No, wait, under siege? No, oh, that's not it. Wait, I know this one.
Welcome to Screen Crush. I'm Colton Ogburn, and these are all the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in What If Season 2, Episode 3. And guys, this episode was fun. Different, but fun. And a little later, we need to talk about how Happy Hogan may have become the most powerful Hulk the Marvel Universe has ever seen. So we pick up sometime in between the events of, I'm guessing, Iron Man 3 and Avengers Age of Ultron. We can tell because Tony is still using his Legionnaire bots that we first saw at the start of Avengers Age of Ultron. The same bots that would go on to become Ultron's army in 2015's Age of Ultron. But remember, these Legionnaire bots were inspired by Tony's Iron Legion protocol, which we first saw used in Iron Man 3, which also took place during Christmas 2012. Here we can see a mantle of stockings featuring the names of our heroes. We've got Clint, aka Hawkeye, Thor, Tony, Pepper Potts, Nat, aka Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, and Rhodey. And then next to Rhodey, there's one starting with an S. We can assume that's Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, and then we have this big green stocking for the Hulk himself, Bruce Banner. And I think over here I spotted a stocking for Darcy. Darcy Lewis, of course,
and Maria, but they got one in between Steve and Hulk,
as Jane Foster's assistant, and she later popped up in WandaVision.
What's your field?
We're not supposed to talk to each other.
Boys get later, got it.
Happy Hogan is prepping Avengers Tower for a big Christmas party, and this reminded me a lot of his role in Spider-Man Homecoming when he was walking around Avengers Tower managing the big move.
We're relocating to a new facility upstate where hopefully the cell service is much worse.
And then comes Maria Hill, who it was very nice to see following her fate in Secret Invasion. It makes sense that Maria would be at Avengers Tower at this time because we know that she was working closely with the Avengers come the beginning of Avengers Age of Ultron.
They'd hate missing you guys get together. Testosterone.
I love this line where Happy reminds everyone that he is a security professional, calling back to his role in Iron Man 3.
Badge, guys. Put him in the toilet. Come on.
And you know, I bet it had to be hard telling people that you're Iron Man's bodyguard.
Let me tell you something. You know what happened when I told people I was Iron Man's bodyguard? They laughed in my face.
Hey, Max, you got the New Year's resolutions?
Nope.
None?
Nope, none. I mean, I used to have this real problem with stress eating, but then I quit.
Oh, huh?
Need to finally be free of your bad m.com and use code ScreenCrush to save an additional 10% off your order today. Now, back to what I was saying. Here we get a reference to Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You.
That one Mariah Carey song on loop? Bingo!
And then we get the return of another Phase 1 baddie, if you can even call him that, Justin Hammer.
This is the story of how Justin Hammer stole Christmas.
Justin Hammer was first introduced in Iron Man 2 as a wannabe Tony Stark.
That I observed Mr. Hammer entering the chamber, and I am wondering if and when any actual expert will also be in attendance.
After recruiting Ivan Vanko and crashing the Stark Expo, Hammer found himself in prison. We even got to see Hammer in prison in the Marvel one-shot All Hail the King, a one-shot about the Mandarin.
Look at this guy. What is so special about him? I mean, I had an army of robots. What's he got? He's got some dumb accent?
Here we get some references to a Christmas classic, A Christmas Story.
When I was 7 years old, I wanted a Red Ryder BB. Accidentally got my tongue stuck on a telephone.
We heard mention of a Red Ryder BB gun, getting your tongue stuck to a pole, and my favorite,
to shoot your eye out.
kid. They didn't get the BB gun at Christmas. You know why? Shoot your eye out.
You'll recognize on this level of Avengers Tower the same bar we saw Natasha and Bruce having their flirty conversation in Age of Ultron.
How a nice girl like you wind up working in a dump like this?
And here we hear Hammer say to the Legionnaires,
"Knock 'em dead, Johnny Fives."
This is a reference to the robot from the classic movie Short Circuit.
Hey, it's me, your skin. I want to feel extra clean.
Don't dwell on things you cannot
I'm
change.
craving a balanced cleanse with CeraVe. CeraVe Foaming Cleanser, developed with dermatologists, cleanses and...
I think we should mention how much Justin Hammer is trying to act like Tony Stark here, with all the pop culture references and nonchalant attitude. This dude really doesn't have a personality of his own, and it shows. We find out next that Hammer is after Hulk blood, giving this episode a connection to the She-Hulk series, where a group of insecure men are also trying to obtain some Hulk blood.
My team also synthesized your blood, so it could safely give me all the powers you never should have been given in the first place.
It's also in She-Hulk that we learn that Tony and Bruce worked together on trying to find a cure to Banner's Hulk problem, and eventually they were able to create who we know as Smart Hulk that we met in Avengers Endgame, a Hulk without the anger problems.
Tony's been messing around with Banner's blood, seeing if he can make him a Hulk without the anger management issue.
In this quick line from Happy, we learn that Tony and Bruce had been working on this project prior to even Age of Ultron, which makes the scene where Hulk goes rampage mode in Age of Ultron all the more sadder, now knowing that he and Tony had been working on a cure. And here we get a fun little nod to Sokovia. Remember that this is the country that not too long from now would be destroyed by Ultron, so hearing the country of Sokovia mentioned was actually kind of dark, knowing the fate that lies ahead for them really soon. Here we see Happy crawling through the air duct just like John McClane did in Die Hard, a movie that also took place in a skyscraper at Christmas time. Yippee-ki-yay. Let me know in the comments below, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Just don't kill each other while you're down there, okay? Thanks. Here we get another example of Justin Hammer thinking he's cooler than he is by referring to himself as Tony Stark's greatest enemy. Only for Maria Hill to shut him down by asking if he is a wealth tax, the true enemy of the billionaire.
No one deserves to have that much money.
Now here we hear Hammer's henchmen mention that the sound they hear could be a rat. This reminded me of the rat in the mainline MCU that rummaged around some technology in a van and freed Ant-Man from the quantum realm. When Happy breaks the ventilation shaft, this reminded me of another Christmas time movie, actually featuring a security guard, Paul Blart Mall Cop. Now, this episode was full of digs at Hawkeye, the first being this confetti arrow we see Tony made for him. We know from the Hawkeye series that Clint does have a lot of trick arrows. But I loved how Happy asked if Hawkeye was doing birthday parties now, and don't worry, there are even more Hawkeye digs to come. So when Happy gets injected with the Hulk blood, he doesn't go green, he goes purple. Now, this actually isn't the first purple Hulk we've ever seen. In the comics, Norman Osborn, aka the Green Goblin, was running an organization called Hammer. No connection to Justin Hammer, as far as I know. Osborn gets the ability to absorb the powers of any superhero that attacks him. So, when Osborn is attacked in these comics by Red Hulk, we see him turn into a purple Hulk, a Hulk who also has the powers of many others, like the Avengers, the Young Avengers, and even the Dark Avengers. So while we didn't see Happy Hogan absorbing any powers, I thought it was an interesting choice to make his Hulk purple, so maybe it's foreshadowing a Norman Osborn appearance later down the line in this season of What If. Now behind Happy here we can see a suit in a glass case. It's got a hint of purple. See Hulk wearing an Avengers Endgame. In this office, we can see an I Love LA mug that I'm guessing probably belongs to either Tony or Pepper, considering that they live in Malibu, California, which is just west of Los Angeles. We can also see this little Captain America shield, and behind the desk is a dummy body for fittings, so this office likely belongs to the costume designers for the Avengers, and we get hints at that later on when we see the different materials, which we'll talk about in a second. And in the next shot, we can see a Captain America helmet and a drawing of what looks like Black Widow in a ballerina costume, the same one we see her wearing in this episode for our undercover mission. Speaking of, when Happy goes to call Natasha for help, we can see a list of contacts on his phone. We've got M. Chauncey, aka Matthew Chauncey, a writer on What If Seasons 1 and 2, and he's also worked on projects like Miss Marvel and Thor Love and Thunder. We've also got Janice Lincoln, an employee of Tony Stark, who went on to work for Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio, in Spider-Man Far From Home. We've also got Nick Fury, Maria Hill, Stan Lee, the creator of all things Marvel, Darcy Lewis, James Rhodes, Steve Rogers, Secretary of State, Thunderbolt Ross, Tony Stark, and Sam Wilson, aka Falcon, the new Captain America. Now, once Happy gets Natasha on the phone, we see her in one of her OG undercover missions like we saw in Iron Man 2 and in the Avengers.
We need you to come in.
Are you kidding? I'm working.
The ballerina costume is also a callback to Natasha's time training to become a Black Widow in the flashbacks we saw in Avengers Age of Ultron.
You break them. Only the breakable ones. You're made of marble.
When Happy calls Tony, we hear Tony refer to Cap's shield as a patriotic frisbee, just like we heard Ultron call it a frisbee here.
The most versatile substance on the planet. And they used it to make a frisbee.
I thought it was a nice touch considering a large portion of Ultron's personality comes from Tony. Here we see a store shelf where all the Iron Man figures are sold out, but there are plenty of Hawkeye figures, and they've even been marked down to move inventory. And poor Glenn is having to buy an Iron Man figure for his kids.
Wife says, bring home this toy or don't come home at all.
And I thought it was interesting that we hear Clint mention his wife because at this point in the Marvel timeline, the Avengers aren't supposed to know about Clint's secret family.
This is an agent of some kind.
Hi, sweetheart. Hey, buddy.
These are
Look at your face.
smaller agents.
We also got a great callback to the old sun's getting real low, big guy line.
Sun's getting real low, pal, like super winter solstice kind of low.
We hear Darcy mention that she's been in college for the better part of a decade, which makes sense because in WandaVision, Darcy has her doctorate.
Miss Lewis.
Dr. Lewis.
Here we get another Die Hard reference when Darcy confuses the movie for Con Air and Under Siege, and then Happy calls her John McClane, Bruce Willis's character in Die Hard.
Hey, John McClane, focus!
And then Darcy asks,
Are you asking me to be Reginald Bell Johnson?
now Reginald Bell Johnson is the actor who played the cop in Die Hard that was John McClane's eyes and ears on the outside.
Reginald Bell Johnson, that's what you remember from the movie?
Here in the glass we can see a Captain America uniform. Here we see Happy ducking behind a case holding a Hawkeye uniform. And in the case next to that we can see Black Widow's uniform from the first Avengers movie. And then here we can see a Thor costume. And then Happy runs into this material room that I mentioned earlier. We can see signs on the wall for organza, leather, and spandex. Now you guys know what leather and spandex is, but I personally had to look up organza, and it's apparently like this silk material. Everything you need for superhero costumes. And I thought it was a nice touch that the material kind of looks like wrapping paper for this Christmas episode. Here we see some punching bags, a callback to how Steve Rogers spent a lot of his time before joining the Avengers. Behind Hammer here we can see some propellers, and I think this one is actually called an Iron Man propeller in the real world. When Darcy opens up the drawer of AIs, we hear her mention Friday, Tony's AI replacement after the death of Jarvis.
Boss, we got Friday, a Wadsworth, an Edith 1.0.
Wadsworth, which is the name of the butler in the Clue movie, which makes sense because Jarvis is also named after Howard Stark's butler.
You get lots of people said.
Also, a big shout out to our post-production manager, Harriet, for her knowledge of Clue.
Gosh, sounds like a BBC mystery.
And then we have Edith 1.0, a reference to the AI Tony would gift Peter Parker via the sunglasses in Spider-Man Far From Home.
Edith stands for Eden Dead, I'm the hero.
Here, Happy says he's going to take the elevator, a callback to this scene from Loki Season 1.
What do you think? Maximum occupancy has been reached. Take the stairs. Yes.
Here we get a tease to Captain America Civil War and the tension between Tony and Cap.
The billionaire got Captain America's socks. Wow, the press lied. These two really do not get along.
When we see Happy fight these robots, it reminded me of another big robot fight we saw go down in this exact same spot in Avengers Age of Ultron. Only in that movie, Bruce Banner didn't Hulk out.
Don't turn green.
Here we see the robots' oil flinging everywhere, just like how in Multiverse of Madness we saw Wanda covered in the Ultron bots' oil, but it was totally meant to look like blood, but the oil gave them a way to do it and keep the movie PG-13, just like how in Samurai Jack they had him fight these robots and oil spewed everywhere like blood. We didn't get a reference to Hulk Hogan that just had to be made. I mean, when you've got Happy Hogan as a Hulk, it couldn't be avoided.
Oh, famous last words, Hulk Hogan.
20 3,000 leagues under the sea is a nice place to deposit somebody, brother.
And then in comes the Hulkbuster, which we first saw in Avengers Age of Ultron. Hammer is now in the Hulkbuster and does some repetitive punches to Happy, just like we saw Tony do when he fought the Hulk in Age of Ultron.
Go sleep.
Here we meet the AI Darcy chose as a German AI named Werner, which could be a reference to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. character Werner von Strucker, the son of Baron Strucker, who we also met in Avengers Age of Ultron.
No surrender!
I'm going to surrender.
Here we get the side profile of the Avengers coming in to save the day. Again, just like the opening of Avengers Age of Ultron. Lots of Age of Ultron references in this episode. And here we see Bruce Banner wearing a Christmas sweater that reads chemistry instead of Christmas tree. Get it? Because, you know, he's a scientist.
And out with the old, in with the nucleus.
And if you wait till after the credits, we get this fun little song from Darcy.
Good Queen Darcy last looked down on the Feast of Sea Riders.
Okay, so those were all the Easter eggs I caught for What If Season 2, Episode 2.
man.
Let me know if I missed any down in the comments below, or you can add me on Twitter. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe,
y'all.
smash that bell for
I'm about to
alerts.
go get my
For
day
Screen
started.
Crush,
I gotta do
I'm
something
Colton
today. I can't be staying in bed all day, so I gotta hit the road, Jack. But I'm gonna come back for some more. All right. Bum, bum, ba-da-dum, bum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum, ba-da-dum. Bum, bum, bum.